Have you struggled with panic attacks jolting you awake just as you're about to drift away to sleep and then staying awake the entire night? If so, you've found the episode on the World Wide Web that I think will really help you. In this episode, we are going to talk about why nocturnal panic attacks like this happen. We're going to see that they actually can happen and we can fall asleep within minutes later. And 3, how that happens, how we can have these panic attacks and fall asleep, and how they overall fade away. Let's take a look. Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Mining the Comments, in which we're going to see how we can meet nocturnal panic attacks. Now, if you don't know what's going on, who I am, well, I'm Daniel. I'm a sleep physician turned sleep coach. And this is Mining the Comments. It's a series of episodes where we look at comments from the community and learn from them. So without further ado, actually, there is one more ado thing here, which I'm just going to say that this is the first episode where we are back to new content. Over the summer, we've done our summer series, and this is the first one after the summer series. Hope you enjoy the summer series, by the way. And if you find some episodes that you really like, then please respond to our newsletter when I ask for recommendations for the summer series, which I do typically in May every year. And if you don't know how to get on the newsletter, then go to our website, thesleepcoachschool.com, and you can join the newsletter there. But yes, sorry, that was kind of a long preamble there. But let's go to the comment here. And this is a comment from Insomnia Insight number 316. And it is Kevin Lewis, who says the following. Hi, Daniel. Actually, it says Daniep, but I'm pretty sure that's a misspelling of my name. Hi, Daniel. Can you do an update to nocturnal panic attacks, mainly as you start to sleep and you wake up with such a shock that you stay awake all the night? Yes, Kevin, we are going to do exactly that. And I want to thank you for sharing, and I hope this will be really helpful for you. And we are going to divide this class into 3 sections. We're going to talk about why nocturnal panic attacks happen. So I just abbreviate nocturnal panic attacks with NPA here. So we're going to look at why NPAs happen, why we stay up all night, and how these NPAs fade away. So yes, let's start with number 1 here. Why do NPAs happen? And I added here in parentheses, in the context of insomnia, because we can, of course, have a panic attack at night for some completely unrelated reason, like nothing having to do with insomnia. Like, we have some, personal issues like relationship problems, and it just happens to, we happen to think of them at night, and we're like, oh my gosh, why is this happening in my relationship or something like that? And we have a panic attack at night. That's not what we're covering here. We're covering nocturnal panic attacks in the context of insomnia, like the one Kevin describes. And here's how they happen in the context of, again, Kevin's comment, just as we're about to fall asleep. As we are just about to drift off to sleep and we realize this, we are sensing kind of like our thoughts become maybe blurry, like we're sensing that we're falling asleep. Then we think something like, what if I have a panic attack right now? Or what if I don't fall asleep? Or what if it happens again? What if that happens again? Like what happened last night? Something like that. We have a thought, like a type of what if thought like that. And this thought is very alarming to us. We're essentially saying, like, what if there's a threat? What if there's a problem? What if there's danger coming our way? And that thought is very activating, and we're jolted away. We feel like shocked, like Kevin describes it. And then we have kind of maybe the body sensations too, like the heart is beating very, very hard. We're breathing heavily, like our eyelids are like, they won't stay shut. They're like popped awake, and we have like this tingling or maybe burning skin. We all know what it feels like. We have this kind of panic attack waking us up because of those type of thoughts. Now, there may also be instances where we aren't consciously aware of those thoughts. We don't even hear them, or we aren't aware of them. So the only thing we experience is that we were just about to fall asleep, and then we're in a panic attack. But there's also, behind every emotion, there's a thought. Thoughts are what produces emotion. So even if you don't hear these thoughts or you're aware of them, there's some type of thought like this in the background. And this shows us that it really just boils down to thinking of not sleeping, whether it is, not sleeping for several hours, not sleeping the whole night, or not falling asleep. If we think of anything like that as a threat or danger, that is the root behind these type of NPAs. Now, we're focusing on Kevin's comment here, and we're talking mainly about like that experience of, as we're just about to fall asleep in the beginning of the night, we have this panic attack. But of course, it's the same mechanism behind the middle of the night panic attack. Like you fall asleep fine, and then you just wake up with a panic attack, right? And that's because you had a normal awakening. We all have awakenings at night, but you woke up and then thought, oh no, this is happening again. What if I can't fall back asleep? What's going on? Something like that. And then you have a panic attack in the middle of the night instead. But the mechanism is exactly the same. It's just thoughts around thinking of not sleeping as a threat or danger that cause these nocturnal panic attacks. So now we understand that they really just comes from thoughts, and they're really just rooted in, like all insomnia, rooted in our brain having started to perceive not sleeping, misperceive not sleeping, I should say, as a threat or danger, when it actually is perfectly safe to be awake at night. But that doesn't quite answer the question of why we may stay awake all night. Why can it be, like Kevin describes, that you can have this like panic attack, like let's say, at 11 or 11:30 or something like that, and then literally be awake all night long? Why does that happen? And here's where I'll introduce some teachings that is new, that is like really the update in this episode comes here. And I'm going to invite you to imagine something. Imagine that you're, sleeping peacefully, and then you wake up in a panic because there's an alarm going off. The fire alarm is going off. And again, you have this like rush of adrenaline, cortisol. You're like, you're very suddenly wide awake. Your heart is beating fast, right? And, you're confused, you're panicky, and then you're like, whoa, that's the fire alarm. And you go check it, and you realize it's actually just making a lot of noise because it's out of battery. That's all that's going on. And what happens here is that you may, just unplug it, or you may change the battery. You may do the right thing, which is change the battery right there and then. But the point here is that after you've taken care of this, you go back to bed, you realize this is kind of a false alarm here, and you may be back asleep in just a few minutes. It doesn't take much longer than that, and you're back asleep. And the point here is that this was a real panic attack. This was a shock. There was high levels of adrenaline, cortisol, like coursing throughout your veins, throughout your body, yet you fell asleep a few minutes after that. There is no, just because we had a panic attack, that does not in itself predict that we're going to be awake for a long time. And now somebody may object here and say like, well, this is like an alarm coming from the outside. It's different with the panic attack. It just comes from the inside. But it's the same thing. If we imagine something else, we can imagine that you're waking up panicky because you woke up and then you thought, oh my gosh, I was supposed to be on a flight today and I'm missing it. Or and you can be like just as panicky as with the fire alarm going off. But then you realize, well, no. It's next week. That thing is next week. And then same thing here. We can have this like panic, adrenaline release, cortisol release, but that does not in itself keep us awake for long. So why is it then that we can have a panic attack and then not be awake and not be asleep for the rest of the night? Well, here's the thing. Thinking the night is doomed after we have a panic attack is actually what keeps us awake at night. Not the panic attack itself, but how we think of the fact that we had a panic attack. If we have a panic attack and we think something like, what if this happens every night? What if I'll never get out of this pattern? What if I can never fall back asleep again? What if something is wrong with me? What if I never find a way out of this? Those type of thoughts can go on for the entire night, and they can kind of reactivate this nervous system, like reactivate the cortisol release, reactivate adrenaline, and that is what keeps us awake all night, not the initial panic attack in itself. And knowing this, we actually now have everything we want to go to the third part here and see how nocturnal panic attacks fade away. Firstly, it is really all about the realization that they're happening simply because our brain has started to misidentify being awake as a threat. It started to see not sleeping as a threat or danger, when in reality, we are perfectly safe even if we don't sleep. Being awake is not harmful at all. And similarly, when we realize or we see that having had a nocturnal panic attack, it doesn't have any other meaning. There's nothing else going on. There's just this misunderstanding that happened in our brain. That's all that's happening. There's no meaning. There's no predictive value. It doesn't say anything about you. It doesn't say anything about what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes, in the next day, in the next week, in the next year. It doesn't say anything about that. It has absolutely no predictive value. It means nothing. That is also key. And I would say C here is like practicing befriending wakefulness, which is how insomnia in itself fades away, and then befriending these nocturnal panic attacks, which is how they fade away. And when I say befriending, it really just means like teaching our brain that there is no threat or danger. Being awake is no danger. It's perfectly harmless to be awake. Having a panic attack is also just as harmful as being jolted awake by a fire alarm. Like neither of them are dangerous, right? It's perfectly safe. Now, befriending doesn't mean enjoying them or liking them or looking forward to them or being like, yeah, I'm going to be awake all night, or yes, I'm going to have a panic. Of course not. It's unrealistic. It simply means no longer trying to escape them, get away from them, manage them. So anytime we are awake at night or we have a nocturnal panic attack and we're no longer trying to stop it, trying to manage it, trying to control it, and we're no longer thinking it has a meaning or significance or predictive value, then we are befriending. And befriending can mean that we are awake and we listen to an audiobook because we like that, or it can mean that we're just resting with our eyes closed. It's like anything that isn't an attempt to escape, anything that isn't a way of thinking of this as a threat or danger, is what ultimately sets us free from all of them. And when this happens, when wakefulness or nocturnal panic attacks, they no longer represent danger, they just start happening. They fade away. They happen less and less and less. And you'll experience that you can have a panic attack. You can be jolted away, shocked awake, and still have a peaceful, restful night after that happened. And I was going to say this earlier, but it just came to me now that this topic actually came up in a series of calls I had with a client who had something very similar to you, Kevin, which was just as he was about to fall asleep, he had a thought, what if I become anxious? And he thought that if I become anxious, that will keep me up for at least 20, 30 minutes. And what if I then become anxious again? Then it's going to add up and I'm going to not sleep at all, maybe for a whole night. And this example of having like a fire alarm wake us up and seeing that we can be jolted awake, we can be having a panic attack and still fall asleep shortly after, was really, really helpful to him. And I hope it'll be to you also, Kevin, and anyone else who tunes in. Now, we will conclude this episode of Mind in the Comments here. From now and going forward, we'll have new episodes weekly here on the channel, and I hope they'll bring a lot of value to you. But I'll conclude here for now. See you in the next one. Bye. Hi there, it's me, Daniel, and I hope you found a ton of value in the video that you just watched. Now, leaving insomnia can be tricky. It can be difficult. That's why I put together the Insomnia Breakthrough Series. This is a free 3-day mini course in which I'll walk you through some of the biggest insights I've had after helping thousands of people leave chronic insomnia. In day 1, you're going to learn about the hidden insomnia loop and see why insomnia continues despite everything you've done to fix it. In day 2, we look at the turning point. We get to know Spiros and Kristen and see how everything shifted for them once they understood the hidden insomnia loop. And finally, in day 3, we look at the return to sleep and see what insomnia recovery actually looks like, so you're ready for the journey ahead. If this sounds like something you'd like to be part of, then simply head over to thesleepcoachschool.com and click the link at the very tippy top of the page. And if you join, I look forward to seeing you on the other side.